Do you want to become the embodiment of speed, agility, and pure electric power? Do you want to wield the power of the Thunder God in your fist, punching your enemies with explosive chain lightning? What is going on, Guardians? Dwarvrich here, and in this video I will be showcasing an updated Arcstrider build that will have you flowing like water through even the most dangerous battlefields, leaving a trail of pure destruction in your wake. In the background you're seeing some solo legendary Avalon gameplay, so we're locked 15 power under level, and as you can see we turned the battlefield into an electrifying dance of death with our constant invisibility and devastating burst damage. Now let's get to the build explanation. This build revolves around a combo that I like to call the Dance of Death, the Combination Blow melee ability, and Gambler's Dodge. Combination Blow gives us a stacking melee damage bonus up to 3 stacks every time we punch something to death, and each kill will refund our dodge. Since Gambler's Dodge fully refunds our melee energy, we can keep punching and dodging back to back with an over 400% damage bonus on every hit. Our first aspect, Lethal Current, turns these boosted punches into explosive chain lightning. All we have to do is dodge, and then our next punch will both apply the jolt debuff and cause a lightning aftershock. The aftershock scales with our melee damage, so the burst damage from this will hit hard. Lethal Current also blinds anything we punch that's jolted, which means that with just our fists we can stun overload champions through jolt, and unstoppable champions through blind. Our other aspect, Flow State, is how we get amplified. Flow State gives us faster dodge cooldown, damage reduction while dodging, and lightning fast reload speed, in addition to all the other buffs we normally get from being amplified. For fragments, our core fragments are Spark of Resistance, Shock, and Magnitude. Spark of Resistance gives us 25% damage reduction for being near 3 or more enemies, which is excellent for survivability, especially since this build is so aggressive. Shock makes our grenades apply jolt, while Magnitude makes them last longer. The combination of Shock and Magnitude makes our pulse grenades absolutely devastating. The last slot is a flex slot. Here I'm using Spark of Feedback for more melee damage against tough targets that survive long enough to hit back. Other good flex options include Spark of Amplitude for more orb generation, Spark of Beacons for some blinding utility, and Spark of Ions to generate more ability energy, mostly for the grenade. All of this is tied together by 2 key pieces that push our burst damage and survivability to the next level: our exotic armor piece, Assassin's Cowl, and a 1-2 punch shotgun. The 1-2 punch shotgun is how we deal with anything that doesn't die outright to a punch or two. Point blanking a target with the shotgun and landing every pellet will give us a 100% boost to our melee damage for just enough time to land 2 punches. The aftershock from Lethal Current scales with this 100% damage buff. So if we want to delete something from existence, our combo is dodge to activate Lethal Current, then fire the shotgun, and immediately punch twice. This combo deals so much burst damage that it can blow up barrier and overload champions before they even get a chance to react. Our exotic armor piece is Assassin's Cowl, and this is how we become nearly invincible. The exotic perk, Vanishing Execution, gives us invisibility and a burst heal every time we punch something to death or get a finisher, with the duration of the invisibility scaling with the tier of the enemy we kill. Red bars give us 7 seconds, while champions give us 13 seconds of invisibility. Between the heals on kills and constant invisibility, we can freely move around the battlefield, become visible for just long enough to execute our next victim and vanish back into the shadows. Another exotic armor piece that I frequently see people talk about is Liar's Handshake. Liar's Handshake's exotic perk, Cross Counter, allows us to follow up our initial punch with a devastating hit that deals 200% increased melee damage. While this sounds great, the Liar's Handshake Cross Counter does drastically reduce damage when combined with 1-2 punch. So comparing the burst damage combo across both Cowl and Liar's, Liar's ends up only doing about 30% more damage in the end. Since our endgame survivability suffers without invisibility, giving up Assassin's Cowl for 30% more burst damage is generally not worth it. Our super of choice is Gathering Storm. Arc Staff is good, but it's redundant with what we already do, while Gathering Storm covers our weaknesses perfectly. It has long range and does good sustained damage, which is exactly what the rest of the build is lacking. Our mod setup is where this really starts to differ from the old pre-Lightfall version of the build. We no longer have access to the Well of Ions mod and its near constant 30% melee damage buff, so our punches aren't quite as strong as before. But the new system allows us to get very high uptime on our grenade and super, turning this into more of a hybrid build than before. On our helmet, we're using Dynamo, Hands-On, and Ashes to Assets, which work together to give us our super back extremely fast. Dynamo gives us a chunk of super energy whenever we dodge near an enemy, while Hands-On gives a chunk whenever we melee kill. Both will trigger constantly as we perform the Dance of Death. Ashes to Assets turns our grenade kills into even more super energy, and we'll be throwing quite a few grenades with this setup. We're also using Distribution and Double Bomber on the cloak to refund even more grenade and super energy from the Dance of Death, and Impact Induction on the arms as yet another source of grenade energy from punching things. We also have an orb package. Double heavy-handed on the arms makes a mid-sized orb every time we melee kill for a good amount of super energy, which also feeds into Innervation and Absolution on the legs to get more grenade energy. The end result of this mod setup is that we can throw our grenade about every 3 rotations of the loop, and our super can be used in just about every engagement. For stats, the build is practically indifferent to most of them. Pump Resilience to 100 for 30% damage reduction and you're golden. Combine this with appropriate resistance mods on the chest piece to become nearly unkillable. I like to use Concussive, Melee, and a copy of whatever elemental resistance is most relevant to the activity. The rest of the stats should go into a combination of mobility and discipline, but don't go out of your way and sacrifice other mods for those stat points. Resilience is important, but the rest of the stats barely affect the build since our core loop gives us all the healing and ability energy we need. Weapon choice is pretty open. Outside of a 1-2 punch shotgun, we can use whatever the activity calls for, be it champion stuns, sustained DPS, more area damage, or anything else. A sniper rifle is a great way to take out problem targets that are too far away to run up and punch. Tractor cannon is one of my personal favorite exotics to use with this build, since the 30% weakening debuff allows us to do some really cheeky things with our burst damage. I hope you all enjoyed the build and breakdown. Drop a like if you found this video helpful or entertaining, and if you want to see more endgame oriented builds like this one, consider subscribing to the channel. You can also find all my builds in a playlist, which I'll link in the description. You can find a dim link to the build in the description too, as well as a consolidated image of the build at the end of the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll do my best to answer every question that comes my way. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one, Guardians.